Namaste. Every crisis provides an opportunity. This pandemic has provided us with enough time to introspect the practices which we had taken for granted for a long time. Education, like every other sector, is also in turmoil. Both students and teachers are trying hard to adjust to new normal. They are understanding the importance of social lives in educational institutes. It is making everyone understand the importance of schools and colleges. People do ask, is there a necessity of colleges when information is available to everyone anytime one wants? But now they are realizing schools and colleges are not only about buildings. Why is everyone unhappy about online education? It's because the technology is not evolved to provide that personal touch in education process. Colleges are important not because they give degrees but because they help young people explore various things. It gives them a chance to spread their wings and fly high in the limitless sky of opportunities. They also provide a safety net when they fail. That is why they are relevant even today. And during this pandemic, everybody is realizing this more than ever. I am sure in coming days, when the situation improves, both students and teachers will value the time they spend in college together. Online environment does not provide the warmth of sitting in canteen and sharing food. It does not give the joys of bunking classes and gossiping. Sports and cultural activities, trips and parties. How can one do all this, which is integral to college life, in an online environment? That is the question. But these are trying times. In the beginning, everything will look gloomy, like the Samudra Manthana, which initially threw out halahala, the poison. The initial days will be tough, but one has to continue the churning to get beneficial things. All the good things like Airavata, Uchchaishravas, Tulasi, and finally the Amrita itself will come. One has to be patient and keep trying. With time and practice, technically mediated education will find better ways to integrate in our lives. New models of engagement will emerge. Technology will definitely improve. Infrastructure will scale up to meet the expectations of millions. Technology, which would otherwise take decades to roll out, will be out in years. This is bound to happen. Till then, we have to find newer ways to engage with existing systems. What has happened in recent decades was rapid commercialization of education sector. The growth of degree oriented education is unprecedented in human history. It was a mad rush. Everyone was getting degree certificates. But education, knowledge, don't ask. We forgot the basic purpose of education. Nature has this way of balancing itself. When things go overboard, it hits the reset button. That's precisely what has happened. Now it's up to us to learn the lessons. We need to learn quickly and start applying it in our daily lives. In this context, it is desirable to go back to our roots and see how the concept of education has evolved over times. This will help us in understanding the fundamental aspect of education and help us design better strategies to deal with present crisis. In this talk, I will be giving you a glimpse of how education was delivered in early times. That should enlighten us about the purpose of education. Today, there is a renewed emphasis on outcome based education. People are talking about it as if it is a novel concept. But our tradition has adopted this system from a long time. It is just that we have forgotten that, and when reminded by Western scholars, we are too happy to embrace that. The outcome education model of India is much better than the Western imitation, which we are doing now. Tell me, how far do you think while talking of outcomes in education today? We design outcomes for our degree programs, right? How long are they valid? 3 years, 5 years, 10 years after graduation? But how long a person will work after graduation? 30 years or even more? Are we designing our outcomes for this long term? Definitely not. Then, what is this outcome based education we are talking about? If we cannot prepare the person for a lifetime, then what is the use of education? And we have completely forgotten that the purpose of education is character building. In Indian tradition, the outcome or purpose of life is defined under the theory of Purushartha. They define a four-stage purpose of life. They are dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Moksha is the destination, ultimate bliss one has to reach. But that does not mean one has to spend a dry life immersed in spirituality, as many assume. What our forefathers say is, you are eligible for artha and kama. That is, accumulate wealth and fulfill your desires, but do that in right path, that is dharma. So what is prescribed in our shastras is enjoying life in rightful manner. Moksha will be attained automatically if you are in right path. Let me explain this with an example. Say a student wants to get 100% marks in exam. If he just keeps thinking about that, he will not enjoy his lessons, nor will he understand the importance of what he is studying. His focus is just getting 100%. Who knows? He may also be tempted to go in the wrong path because he just wants to reach the goal. Contrast this with someone who is interested in knowing new things. He enjoys what he studies. He knows its value. He will surely score good marks. Even if he does not reach 100%, he will definitely be more efficient in using what he has learnt. The guy who just wanted 100% will definitely be an unhappy man forever in his life. This is the difference. Our tradition says, be happy, do good, and enjoy the path more than the destination. So, this is the outcome of education one should be thinking about. The Indian system of education revolved around this Purushartha concept. It was designed to make a happy citizenry. The outcome of education should be this, and not some 10 12 points designed by some foreign country which we are only happy to copy. So, the outcome of education was Purushartha, and an elaborate system was designed to achieve this. This is called ashramas. They are nothing but stages of life. There are four stages called Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa. So a person had to go through these stages to attain the education and get the outcomes proclaimed in Purushartha. It is the Brahmacharya stage which will be our focus today, as it primarily deals with student life. Other ashramas also have some aspects of education, but that we will not deal here. The subject matter of study in Indian tradition was way different from what we have today. In the name of specializations, we have created watertight compartments. So, a student of science will never read the classic literature, and students of arts will never study any practical sciences. This has led to the creation of half baked educated people. An integrated view of life is today impossible because of this. In contrast, the Indian system of learning emphasized the need to study one Shastra and one Kavya completely. So, a student had an opportunity to know the best of all kinds of knowledge. The main text to be studied was Vedas. They are the collection of knowledge system. They are also called as Shrutis because the entire text was passed from generation to other orally. That these texts have survived all this millennia in this way is nothing short of miracle. And even today, the text remains intact in tongues and minds of many people in this country. The subjects discussed in these Vedas too are time resistant. They still feel fresh when you read it. The knowledge which they contain is still relevant. The language and expression used still surprises one. Key to many contemporary problems lies in this text. One only has to approach the text with reverence and humbleness to find answers. Vedas are primarily four: Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, and Atharvaveda. Each of these Vedas contains two primary parts, Samhita and Brahmana. Samhita talks about the rituals to be performed. They are elaborate expositions of processes one should be doing in order to satisfy different gods. Brahmana talks about the rationale for the rituals discussed in Samhita. Brahmanas are further divided into Aranyaka and Upanishad. Upanishads are also called as Vedanta, and they are the fountain heads of Indian knowledge. Upanishad literally means being close to teacher. It is like a personal lesson from a master. Vedanta literally means closing parts of Vedas. It is also useful to understand them as concluding or summary section of Vedas. Therefore, studying Upanishads or Vedanta gives us a clear idea of ancient Indian thinking. The exact number of Upanishads is not clear, with numbering varying according to one's belief. But eight of them, namely Aitareya, Chandogya, Kena, Katha, Taittiriya, Isha, Mandukya, and Prashna, are considered primary Upanishads. Today, I will be focusing on Taittiriya Upanishad. Yajurveda has two schools, Krishna and Shukla. Taittiriya Upanishad is part of Krishna Yajurveda. Taittiriya Upanishad is important for our discussion because it gives an idea of how education was viewed in Indian society. It talks about the relationship between teacher and student. It has many sayings which we use in our daily lives without knowing it's from this text. The entire text of Taittiriya Upanishad is very short, but it contains profound understanding of education system. Taittiriya Upanishad is divided into three primary sections: Shikshavalli, Anandavalli, and Bhruguvalli. The first section of Taittiriya Upanishad, called Shikshavalli, contains the main theme of our discussion. It starts with a popular prayer which is still recited. Om Shanno Mitra Shamvarunaha Shanno Bhavatvaryama Shanna Indro Brahaspatihi Shanno Vishnururukramaha Namo Brahmane Namaste Vayo Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahmasi Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahma Vadishyami Rutam Vadishyami Satyam Vadishyami Tanmavavatu Tadbhaktaramavatu Avatu Mam Avatu Vaktaram. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. This is the opening verses of Shikshavalli. It is a prayer made both by teacher and student. They both are praying to gods. They both promise each other to be good and speak the truth. See the beauty. Teacher should first speak the truth, and then student will automatically do it. They both should trust each other. That is important. To begin the journey of education, both teacher and student should trust each other. Only then that journey will be fulfilling for both of them. In fact, there are multiple stories in our epics where the student is encouraged to test the teacher before he accepts him as guru. Similarly, the teacher also would put student under multiple texts before taking him in. That is the first chapter of Shikshavalli. Then in the second chapter, the importance of pronunciation is emphasized. It explains the science of phonetics and gives it significance. This is important because, as said earlier, Vedas are primarily oral tradition, and we believe the right pronunciation of mantras will bring that hidden power in them. Mantras are not empty words, they store immense power in them, and when uttered in proper way, their power is unleashed. The third chapter talks about the unified theory. It says how seemingly unrelated things are actually connected by a cosmic chain. Events, things, living beings of all kinds are shown to be interlinked to each other. The value chain thus formed sustains the earth. This shows why every student should show compassion and respect to everything around him. In a way, it is to tell students that they should not be limited to themselves and understand that everything in a world is one in the grander scheme of things. The fourth chapter of Shikshavalli starts with a prayer from the teacher. Here, the teacher is praying. He is longing for a deserving student. Like students want good teacher, a teacher too will wait for good students. He prays to gods to give him students who are inquisitive, self-restrained, and peaceful. These are the essential qualities of students. Students should be interested only in learning. Other things should not disinterest him. As said in the famous Subhashita, Vidyaturanam nasukam na nidra. A student should not be worried about comforts or sleep. His focus should only be on studying. That is the reason why there are some strict rules during the Brahmacharya period. Even today, when one undergoes Upanayanam or Munji ceremony, these rules are told. They include detailed rules of conduct. The food prescribed to brahmacharis are bland, without any salt, and students are supposed to eat it without even recognizing that. The day a student complains about tasteless food, the teacher would decide it's time for him to leave the ashrama. A student also had no luxury for an elaborate bath. He had to just jump into the river and come out. Over. The ritualistic bath was reserved after graduation. That is why the Indian word for graduate is Nataka, literally meaning one who has taken a bath. Even today, one can see that during traditional marriage ceremony, Elaborate ceremonial bath is given, indicating the tradition of Snataka. And once he is Snataka, he also is eligible for carrying an umbrella and wearing a footwear. Therefore, if you see, even in today's marriage customs across India, all the guys will wear special sandals and have some kind of ornamental umbrellas and then come to the girl's side for marriage. The ninth chapter of Shikshavalli re-emphasizes the importance of three things: tapas, swadhyaya, and pravachana. Tapas literally means burning, and it signifies the passion one should have towards his goal. Doing tapas means keeping the fire within oneself burning bright. That should help illuminate one's path to reach the glory. It also signifies that, like fire, the difficulties one faces should be burnt into ashes. Swadhyaya or self study is important because one has to be a continuous seeker of knowledge. The infinite ocean of knowledge has to be consumed every day. Learning should not be limited to what the teacher says or what the books prescribe. One should continue to introspect and learn new things from wherever possible. And once something new is learned, it has to be shared with others. Knowledge is a wealth which grows one when it is shared. If one keeps knowledge for himself, it's a sin, say our Shastras. Pravachana means good words. It is important for teachers to understand this. Their words should be pure and meaningful. It should be special. Only then the students will listen. Empty words, meaningless theories, false information should not be uttered. That is the intended meaning here. This lesson is very well inscribed in Ramayana. In the very first sloka of Ramayana, it is said like this: Tapaswadhyaya niratam tapasvi vagvidam varam Naradam paripapracha Valmiki Munipungavam. Valmiki is described as someone engaged in tapas and swadhyaya. So, Valmiki becomes student here, and Narada is given the titles of Tapasvi and Vagvida. So, he is the teacher. The teacher is good in talking, and the student is good in studying. Such an excellent pair of student and teacher gave us the timeless epic like Ramayana. The 10th chapter of Shikshavalli is very important. It contains the words spoken by teacher at the end of the study period. It is like a convocation address. In fact, in many universities in India, even today, this chapter is read during the convocation ceremony, especially of PhD. It contains the general guidelines to teachers and students, which they are advised to follow in their daily lives. The main lesson given to graduating students are this: Om Satyam Vada Dharmam Chara Satyanan Pramaditavyam धर्मान्न प्रमदितौजं कुशालान्न प्रमदितौजं भूत्येन प्रमदितौजं स्वाध्यायप्रवचनाभ्यां न प्रमदितौजम्. It asks students to always speak truth and walk in the path of dharma. It also cautions them not to veer away from the twin ideals of Swadhyaya and Pravachana, which we discussed earlier. Next, it prescribes the golden words which we often use every day. Matrudevo bhava, Pitrudevo bhava, Acharya Devo bhava, Athiti Devo bhava. These words are something which we use every day, but most of the times we would not have thought about the significance of the words used here. The word Acharya used here is very interesting. They could have used any other word for teacher, but they have used the word Acharya. Acharya is someone who follows his own words. So, teachers who simply lecture without following what they prescribe are not to be worshipped as per these words. Only teachers in true sense are eligible for worship. Also, teachers who have practical skills, they have to be respected. Say I am a civil engineering teacher. If I have never built even a hut, let alone a multi-storied building, how effective would my teaching be? That is the lesson for us here. A teacher becomes relevant and therefore worshipable not just because he is in that post. He has to be practical, having hands on knowledge, and follow what he preaches to others. Another important thing one should note here is the word Athithi. It is usually translated as guest, but there is a subtle distinction between Athithi and Abhyagata. Athithi means someone who comes to your home unannounced, not by taking prior appointment. So, arranging an elaborate feast and then saying Atiti Devo Bhava is not correct. Atiti also means strangers. So, you should invite complete strangers into your house, feed them to their satisfaction, and only then you can say Atiti Devo Bhava. Invited guests are not Atitis, they are Abhyagatas. Continuing with Shikshavalli, it further says how a student should approach a teacher. He should first find the right guru and then offer him asana, padya, and argya, that is, the seat to sit, water to wash hands and legs, and some water to drink. He should not speak before the teacher. He should not sit before him. All these rules are written very clearly. Most of this are still followed, even if it is symbolical in nature. We see that our students stand up when we enter into the classroom. Of course, then they will remain seated and we will remain standing throughout the session, as opposed to the traditional method where a teacher should be sitting and students also be seated. And one more important thing here is the fees called Guru Dakshina. There is no entry fees in Indian system of education. Only exit fees was there. That too, if the teacher is very particular about that. Sometimes the teacher may say, I am happy about your service, you need not give me any fees. That was acceptable. But when a teacher asks the fees, one should, one is duty bound to give it with reverence. Shikshavalli says it very well. It says, Shraddhaya Deyam, Shriya Deyam, Hriya Deyam, Bhiya Deyam, Samvidam Deyam. The 10th chapter of Shikshavalli informs us that students have limitations about the knowledge they have received. It also prescribes the road ahead. It clearly says not everything can be learnt in the short duration of schooling. The teacher advises the student to continue learning. He says, approach elders in your family in case of any doubts. The modern education suffers from the problem of superiority complex. It has this I know all attitude about itself. In contrast, the early Indian thinkers were humble. They knew that the knowledge had no end, so they advised their students to be open to learning. The next section of Taittiriya Upanishad is called Anandavalli or Brahmanandavalli. It continues the theme of student teacher relationship, and the very famous shloka is here as its opening verses. Many of you may have heard this shloka before, but you may not know its source. As I said, this is the opening shloka of the second section of Taittiriya Upanishad called Anandavalli or Brahmanandavalli. The shloka goes something like this. Om Sahanavavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Viddhishavahai. Both teacher and student say, let's do good things together. Let both of us grow by learning new things. And most importantly, let's not fight. Let's not hate each other. That should be our main motto also. In these times we are going through is tough. Both teachers and students should be considerate about each other. Technology will not solve all our problems, but we humans can. It's not the time to doubt and point fingers at each other. Both teachers and students are co-travelers in the path of knowledge. Together, they should discover and enjoy the bliss of learning. Om Tat Sat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you.